Hi, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you for joining us today. It is February 28th, last day of February, and we're coming here as usual, as we do every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, to take your questions about U.S. immigration live. It is a great time to do this because there's so many questions out there and so many people that need some general education on this because the rules change so much. Every day I deal with the immigration department and get notices from them that sometimes don't make any sense. Today I had to go to an interview where even the officer apologized and said, "You didn't need to come to the interview. It's just your files are lost and you need to find it." And they quickly found it and approved it. So a lot of stuff like that happens. You know, it's millions and millions of cases that the immigration department is handling every month, every day. So, you know, you can understand what's going on. They don't have the funding necessary, frankly, the number of employees necessary. Very stressful job. Put that all together, and you get a bureaucracy that's having difficulty. And what we do as immigration lawyers is actually help the immigration department. So by doing a clean application package, by having all the answers ready to go, we make it easier for the officer to do the work instead of having him have to look for everything and try to find everything on their own and just create more headaches because they have 1,000 cases they got to do. The case that's properly organized, has all the answers ready to go on it, is the case they want to see and they want to handle because frankly it makes their life easier. It's for everybody. Whatever job you do, you probably understand it. If someone is helping you out, you're going to like it. So that's what we try to do here as immigration lawyers. That's our role in this. So having said that, you know, thanks for tuning in. We're coming live on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, everywhere. Check out our YouTube page, Immigration Talk, U.S. Immigration Talk, or you type in JQK Law and you'll see it. We have thousands of clips on our clips channel, but we have a lot of content in other channels too, long form about everything else. Always educational, intended for general education only, so you have a better understanding about your case. If you want to have a private consultation, just email our office and we schedule a private time right there. Having said that, I want you to know if you're interested in a marriage visa, green card for fiance, all that kind of stuff, I have the best guide out there and it's free. Download it at marriageimmigrationlaw.com. The website is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. You can download what we call the ultimate marriage green card guide. People have emailed me just thanking me for this guide that's 40 plus pages, breaks down a lot of stuff. I do need to update it with some changes the immigration department has made and just add more content. We're getting to that, but you'll be really surprised. And if you don't have a marriage immigration case, download the guide and see what's going on there, what kind of information we provide to help people. And then the goal is to give so much out at no cost so that you know where our heart's at. So if you do need a case with a lawyer or you decided with a lawyer, you know who to call. The email is info@jqklaw.com. Having said that, let's start the show. All right, our first question is coming from Jacinta. Hi, can a teacher on a J1 get an EB2 visa or green card? Well, it doesn't matter what visa category you currently have per se. People could just get green cards. They got to apply for them. So, you know, the issue that may pop up on a J1 is that twofold. One is you may be subject to the 2-year home residency requirement, which means that after you're done what you're doing on the J1, you have to go back to your home country and wait there for like 2 years until you before you can get a green card. So you may or may not be subject to this 2-year home residency requirement. I don't know if that's the case for you, so that's something you have to be mindful of. But secondly, when it comes to these kind of cases, are you able to stay in the United States to get the green card? You have to go back home. So if you do file for the green card, you have to maintain status until filing for the I-485 application for adjustment of status. Your J1 may not get you there in time, so you have to leave anyway. So there's some procedural kind of stuff to be mindful of, but whether you're on a J1, F1, H1B, B2, all these are possible to get a green card if you qualify for the green card aspect. So an EB2 visa is typically when your employer files for you, saying you have, you know, a master's degree or a higher degree. There's also a national interest waiver category where you don't need an employer. But if you're able to get that and the employer pays for you enough or you match the national interest waiver qualification, having a J1 or other non-immigrant visa doesn't necessarily preclude you from getting a green card. You just need to be able to satisfy the green card requirements that they require for anyone to get a green card, but also the background stuff. So no arrest history, all that kind of stuff, which you obviously probably don't have. But these are the kind of things we think about when we look at when we're trying to analyze these cases. But thank you for your question and best of luck. Hopefully you do have an employer that's going to file for you and we'll get you there. So Patrick Gould has a very long question. We'll see how far into we can go. It says, hello, sir. We applied for a marriage-based green card, same sex, on May 2021. We did our interview in October 2021, so that's a while ago, a year and a half ago. Got the employment authorization, social security number, December 2021. And after that, we didn't hear from them until this week. And then it goes on to say, they showed up at our house We let them in, they check the house where we sleep, ask the same questions that they did before their interview, and respond the same answers. They ask for more. So they did an investigation to make sure they're really a couple. The evidence they wanted to come back. Pictures, message, they said all this kind of stuff. Had both their names on it, leases, and health insurance. And what next? And they asked how many bedrooms we had, all these personal kind of questions. If anyone else sleeps there, you said no. Just when we have yes, what should we expect next? So essentially you're saying, you don't have to go into all the details, but essentially did a home investigation. What should you expect next? Well, the officer that did the investigation needs to close their investigation and make a recommendation. And whether it's a positive or negative, they'll make a final decision, and you'll get a notice in the mail saying what their decision is. So right now it's still a wait and see the conclusions of the officer. But if you did a perfect job, as you're kind of telling me there, I wouldn't be too worried. Well, in your initial interview when he went to USCIS, so he didn't trust you and wanted to do this investigation. I've never had one of my own clients have this. We always prepare really well, and we have a lot of documents. Not to say that you didn't. Potentially, it just could be a luck thing where just you lucked out and that's what happened. But you got to wait for a decision of the investigator and the adjudicator of the case after their home investigation. They may go and talk to your neighbors as well. They may go and talk to your landlord and even your employer potentially to make sure you are, what you're doing is the case. So, best of luck. That's what happens. These kind of investigations take forever. I've seen them take 2 or 3 years to finally get to coming and checking out your house, but it looks like you answered well. So I'm optimistic it'll work, but I haven't seen your documents. I wasn't there. I can't say that stuff for sure. But we're praying for it. Hopefully it all goes well. Now, one note I forgot to say in our intro, and thank you, Rasul, for reminding me, is that we do give away free video consultations. We give away 3 during this live broadcast for those watching live. All you got to do is ask a good question and write consultation at the end of it, or just write consultation. And I'll randomly pick 3 people in the mix. You get a free 15-minute video consultation. So, let's name the first person because I forgot to even mention this free consultation. Rasul, thank you so much for reminding me. Rasul Haibullahi. All you got to do is take a screenshot of where you're watching this so I know it's you, not someone else. And by your username coming to the top right, which typically is whatever app you're watching, and email it to me at info@jqqlaw.com. That's info@jqqlaw.com. And I'll respond with follow-up consultation information, how to set that up so we can talk about video. And that's about it. So let's go to the next question. I'm going to go to Instagram really quick. Shab says, unfortunately, I was rejected 5 times for J1 F1 visa. Do you think I have a chance to go to the next interview in 6 months? And do you think I have a chance? It's not up to me whether you have a chance or not. So let's hope so. But after 6 times, it doesn't look good. So whatever you do 6 times, 5 times unsuccessful, probably the 6th time to be unsuccessful as well. But you never know, you don't try. If you want to spend the money and time for it, give it a shot. I don't know enough about details of your case, but it is what it is. I have another question. Afiq asks, I just found out USCIS has mailed my green card on January 10th, but I didn't receive it. What should I do? This is a big issue that pops up frequently for everybody. My clients even have it, where the government says they mailed the documents, but the person didn't get it. You should immediately call USCIS. You get the tracking number with the postal office. Check the postal office to whether they actually delivered it or they returned the case to USCIS. You typically have 30 days, but do it fast before they destroy the document. So call them up, see what's going on. The post office may have returned it to USCIS. The USCIS may be able to resend it to you. All that goes bad, and then it's going to be a big issue. You got to get a new green card. Now, sorry, unfortunately, it's a mess that happens a lot. I do want to remind everyone who's watching to really don't ask about processing times because there's no really good answer to that. And also, don't send the same question or comment over and over again, because if you do that, it makes it really hard to us to figure out what's going on in these questions and to keep track of it. It makes it really difficult. We may have to remove you from the room just to make it palatable. It makes it hard for my assistant to keep track. Because we want to get to everyone's questions, and I want to get proper answers. So it takes a little bit of time. We may not get to your questions this show. Just stay tuned. We have half an hour. We're here every Wednesday, every Tuesday, 5 Pacific time. We still talk about it. But please be conscious of other people as well, and please help us out. But don't spam the inbox and don't ask questions about processing times because I don't have answers for those for the most part. Follow up on Ivy's question. He says the USCIS said it was delivered, but they didn't get it. Unfortunately, at this point, you probably have to do a Form I-90 to get a new green card issued to you. It could take 3 months, could take 2 years to get that new document. Having said that, it's a bad situation, and you got to pay for it too. They'll blame you for not having it, but best of luck on that. Next question from Mr. Tuss. From your observation, has the I-751 removal based on cruelty been having no interviews or not? what's your recent observations on this, please? Well, Mr. Tusk, I haven't filed one of these removals, I-75 removals based on cruelty for 2 or 3 years, so I don't have any recent observations. But typically, they always do interviews on those because they need more information. Unless you documented the case really well, it's really a case-by-case basis. So even if all my cases, even yesterday, didn't have interviews, it doesn't mean your case won't have an interview. It's always a case-by-case basis situation. So whether I tell you, yeah, I never have interviews, it doesn't mean you won't. So all you got to do is prepare for anything, and that's the answer to that one. And I think, yeah, you do have to pay again. Mr. Justice, based on the 48 months I've received, one can still go ahead and apply for citizenship. One's due for that. Yeah, if you have a proper citizenship case and you've been married living with a U.S. citizen, even if your Form I-75 on removal of conditions case is pending, you can file for U.S. citizenship. Lords asks, my husband had a DWI and can he get military parole in place? Let's see. I don't necessarily think there's a ban on it, but I haven't had a military parole in place case where the person had a DUI. Parole in place is discretionary, so it can be denied. I don't think there's a prohibition if someone has one, but I just haven't had the situation, so I haven't looked at all the case law and examples in the past to say for sure. So I don't have an exact answer. But at the end of the day, these things are discretionary. It can be a problem. So you got to make a decision whether you want to bring this case forward or not. To do that, probably will be okay. But it's best to talk in private, so our lawyer do research on it. And you say it's your spouse. So if your spouse is military parole in place, potentially if you're a U.S. citizen, you could file for a green card for them. But a wonderful that Katrina's named you as our second winner of our free consultation. We're giving away 2 back-to-back fast. Laura, just take a screenshot of where you're watching this and email it to me at info@jqqlaw.com so that I could see who you are, the screen name and stuff like that. And we'll schedule a private chat real quick to see what's going on. I'll see if I can get some information at that time about the situation to guide you. But we'll see what happens and we'll take it from there. Havana asks, can you please talk about advanced parole and if any of your clients had issues coming back to the United States? So advanced parole is a special permission to be able to leave the United States when you typically don't have permission to leave. Like if you have an adjustment of status green card case pending, or you have other statuses where if you leave, you can't come back in. I file advanced parole for most of my clients who have the green card process. They have never had issues coming back. But as I mentioned to the other person asked the question about interviews and I-751 cruelty claims, just because my clients haven't had it, I've never had issues doesn't mean you won't. It's always a case-by-case basis. And so a review of your background is needed. If you have any weird immigration history, any accusation of lies, any arrest or criminal history, or other issues that can cause CBP, the Customs and Border Protection, to not let you in. Typically, historically, hasn't been a problem if you don't have criminal history, but that's always a risk. So you got to really review your case and don't travel unless it's really an urgent thing that's happening, just to be safe. Brandon asked, if you have a record, how long you have to wait to file for citizenship? It depends if you're married, if filing for citizenship based on a 3 or 5 year rule, and depends on what your record is. Typically, you want to wait 5 years after the conviction and have no parole or something like that, or probation. But it really depends on what your charges are, your background, stuff like that, to even decide whether it's appropriate to file. So that's one of the things you need to talk to a lawyer in private and have a copy of your conviction record, certified original, with you, and the police record potentially, so you can do a full review of it. Quick question on Instagram. Can you please tell me what's the difference between a receipt number and online case activation number? So the receipt number is your case number. The online case activation number, I don't really handle online cases too much, but it's probably the code that you need to access your online account. But I'm not sure. I don't deal with the case activation number. Mia asks, can an I-485 deny, so adjustment of status of the green card case be denied after I-61 approved and I-130? Maybe. It depends on what's going on in the case. So that's too general. We got to see exactly what's happening to be able to answer that. Tina asks, do I still need an I-212 if ER case is terminated? I don't handle cases in removal proceedings, so I don't like to talk about what happens in those kind of situations. Kadi asks, well, what's the next step to take after my kids got in the United States and got their green card? I'm a U.S. citizen. Well, if they're under 18, they should probably want to get their passports from the U.S. passport office. You go to the post office and get that. But also, I strongly recommend, it's expensive, but applying for N-600 to get each of them certificates of citizenship. And that's a real hardcore way of having proof of citizenship in case issues happen. Most people don't want to do that, and it's rarely needed. But I have had situations where people come to me, and it would have resolved a lot of problems if they had applied for their N600 and got their certificate of citizenship as a backup. There's a lot of scenarios. I'm not sure if we get into it here because I want to answer those questions. But we had situations where they don't issue a new passport because they claim you don't deserve it, and having the certificate handy is really helpful. H1B asks, H1B Finance asks, I got a PhD, 2 publications, 1 patent, 20 citations. Do I have a chance with EB1 green card? That's not enough information to be able to judge something like that. We got to see what your publications are about and what the citations are, what magazines they are. Are you the first person that wrote it, or the second person, or third person? You might want to look at NIWs. You can have a million patents, but if your patent is for something that's unused and not commercially viable or not making money, it doesn't help at all. So this is not something I can give you, make a decision on your case and say chances, based on 1 sentence. If it was that easy, then I wouldn't have a job, So this is something that requires individual review of your case to see what's going on. Have your CV ready, send that out to immigration lawyers and stuff for them to review and take from there. Fadi asks, N400 interview, my I-75 is still pending. Should I go with my wife? Yes. So when you have a removal of conditions, 2-year green card still pending, but you get your citizenship interview, you should go with your spouse and tell them that your I-751 is still pending, so they can hopefully decide the I-751 case right there and then do the citizenship case at the same time and knock both of them out of the way. Bam, you get it all done. Carlos asks, I applied for the I-130, I-485 for my spouse, me being a resident, now I'm a citizen, needs to notify USCIS. Yeah, it's good to notify them. Why not? It may or may not help or make a difference, but it's good to notify them. Is the K3 visa still available? Yes, it's never stopped being available, the K3 visa. Practically, very few people ever get it, but it's still available as an option. And every year, a couple people may get it. Does receiving an I-693 deficiency notice letter asking to complete the medical have any bearing on approval timeline? Not really, but if they send you a letter saying, hey, could you do the medical and mail it to us, that probably means they're going to approve the case without an interview, so that's good. But if they just send you a notice saying, we have to make sure to get the medical and we'll notify you later whether we want you to mail it in or bring it to an in-person interview, that really doesn't have any bearing on timelines. Shivas, I did my application for I-485, a green card, almost 32 months ago, but still haven't got my green card. How to get quick? I don't know what the base of the green card is. I don't know your background, if there's issues. That's something you got to talk to a lawyer to review it. Even if you review it, it might mean nothing. So you start making complaints if the timeline's appropriate, because just telling me you have an I-485 pending doesn't give you enough information. For example, U.S. citizen marriage cases that file this I-485, they're usually pretty fast, But if you have an I-485 application for adjustment status, a green card case, based on being an asylee, those cases are taking 2-3 years now. So in your case, if you had asylum and you filed for green card, yeah, 32 months, unfortunately, that's normal. But if you are married to a U.S. citizen that's taking that long, that's very abnormal. You got to get to the bottom of that. So you see, like, the details of what we know here and your background stuff play a big role for me to be able to answer these kind of questions. So we need a lot more info. Kashaf asks, can you tell if documented qualified 2020 will I get my visa? No, that's impossible to tell. Sammy says, Mr. John, thank you for your time. You're welcome. If the police pulled you over, but the officer did not issue a ticket or warning, should I mention that in N400 or not? Is there any documentation issue place? If the cops pulled you over and just talked with you, that's not being detained, so you don't need to get into that. But if they did issue a citation, you should mention it. If they give you some paper that says, you got a ticket or something like that, you probably should mention it. But again, I don't say you should mention it because I didn't see what it is. Because if it's, they said you had marijuana on you and they issued a ticket, well, that's problematic, So that's something you got to really think about what you're going to do and talk with an immigration lawyer beforehand. But if they just talk with you and you left, then that's just police talking with you. That shouldn't be an issue. Quick question on Instagram. Mac asks, our case has been approved by the National Visa Center for 2 years, and we didn't get an interview. What should we do? Well, it depends on the embassy that you're dealing with. Some embassies are taking 2 years to get an interview, but you want to make sure that they didn't forget about you. You want to make sure your case was actually documented qualified. It still is. If need be, contact the National Visa Center, contact the embassy maybe contact local congressperson to help figure out what's going on to push the case forward. But it might just be that you need to wait. If you really want to, and the delay is really annoying, you could file a lawsuit against the government and say, hey, these delays are out of control, and hopefully that'll cause something positive happen in your case. SN asks, does filing your non-resident spouse on your tax return help USCIS case? Non-resident spouse. Does filing your non-resident spouse on tax return? Well, this is more of a tax question than immigration, but it's help for immigration purposes that you are filing joint taxes with your spouse. And so but that's a tax situation in that you may need to mention your spouse on your case, but that's how the IRS wants it. If you're married, you got to say married filing separately, married filing jointly, head of household, but they may have a question about being married and you got to answer it truthfully. It does help immigration because it shows you're a couple by having more documentation, both your names on it, but you need to file your taxes properly. A lot of the times, people go to these tax preparers and don't know what they're doing, and the spouse is overseas or something like that, or they just, for whatever reason, they mark that they're single. Well, if you mark that you're single when you're married, that could be considered tax fraud. I'm not going to pursue probably, but that could be considered tax fraud. And it's going to confuse the immigration department because you're saying I'm married and you're not married in two different places. That doesn't make any sense. So just do whatever is proper and do the research on the taxes, especially to make sure you do it right. Michelle asks, residents in USA, is there a specific time frame you got to reside at an address for green card application? No. That's for citizenship, you must be in a state for 3 months. For green card now. Oh, asks, I have a dismissed case. Can I apply for advanced parole and come back home safe? I don't know what your dismissed case is about. I can't answer that question. So I don't have enough information about your background. So, and I can't tell you something. I don't know who you are, so I can't tell you to do something with safe or not. It's a general education only. Neil asks, do I need my valid non-expired passport for my citizenship interview, or an expired passport is fine? Generally, you're supposed to have a valid passport in the United States, but for citizenship, primarily, they want you to have valid ID, so have some sort of valid ID, and bring your passport because they really want to check the dates of the travel history in there. That's the main reason they want to ask your passport, to make sure that you're coming and going and what dates you enter and stuff. So that's the more of a why you want your passport at that time. Hamid asks, hello, sir, I'm in the vacation, but my Asylum interview is scheduled. Can I change my interview? You can contact them and request rescheduling. They may or may not do it based on vacation. It doesn't help out, but talk with the immigration department, to Asylum office, see what they say. Brandon already asked this question, so talk with the immigration in private about that to review your case to see what's going on. Jordanos asks, what happens if I marry someone with a green card and file status adjustment and I am on OPT? Well, if your case is proper, then you get a green card eventually, but there's a lot of variables in there in the meantime. You should schedule a private consultation with someone to talk about it. Download the Marriage Green Card Guide at marriageimmigrationlaw.com. There's a lot of information there. Then schedule a private chat if you want to talk about it, but it's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. That's the site to go to. Okay. Love asks, does USCIS send normal message by using a code? Send a normal message by using a code. If you're logging into your online account, they'll send you a code for logging in. The rest of it, I don't understand what you're saying. JC9 asks, when can I apply for citizenship in 5-year rule? I was out of the country for 90 days in total. I have a really, really, really detailed, like 15, 20-minute video on all these timelines for citizenship with a 5-year rule. If you go to YouTube, just type in JQK Law Citizenship Timelines, and you'll get a thorough answer to this question. But the short of it is, if you're only outside for 90 days, it's not a big deal. You could file for citizenship 90 days before it becomes 5 years from the day of getting your green card, as long as you satisfy the other requirements. You want to make sure all the other requirements are satisfied, but it's pretty straightforward from there. Libra asks, can I apply for naturalization 3 months before the 4-year 1-day rule scenario? I wouldn't mess around with the 4-year 1-day rule scenario because it's interpreted in different ways. In these kind of cases, the 4-year 1-day rule, for those who don't know, is people who've been absent from the United States for more than a year, for them to restart their case process, historically, they'll say wait 4 years and 1 day since the last entry, but they kind of updated the policy manual to have an unofficial 4 years, 6 months and 1-day rule. And even that could be problematic. So in my cases, I would only file it if there's a full 5 years. Also, if you spend an extended amount of time outside, let's say you're outside for 2 or 3 years, you're somehow lucky and be able to re-enter the United States, that long absence could potentially still be a problem. So you got to make a decision whether you want to take the risk and still go ahead with this or not. You should talk with an attorney in private, and different attorneys would have different perspectives on this. So be prepared for that issue and be aware of that. Let's see. Noor as my wife's conditional green card is expiring next September, but she will complete her 3 years by then as well. That doesn't make sense because the removal condition comes 2 years. You have to file it 2 years after getting your green card. So if it's been 3 years, you're already too late on filing, which means you have a big problem for late filing right now. So Noor, you need to, as soon as possible, talk to the immigration lawyer to see what's going on with your case. We're about to end the show. What I can do is have a free video consultation with you. Take a screenshot of where you're watching this and email it to me at info@jqqlaw.com so that I can see who you are based on your screenshot, and that is you, Noor, and I'll reply with how to schedule the free video consultation so we can talk about this. But again, when you have removal condition case, you have a 2-year green card, you have to file the removal conditions form I-751 within 90 days of the green card expiring. If it's already been 3 years since you had your green card, almost 3 years, that means you missed the filing window, which is a major issue. You need to deal with that first before you even get to thinking about U.S. citizenship. Rima asks, can you discuss the 3 and 10-year ban court case that allows a person to have spent time in the United States? Sure. So there's a lot, especially on TikTok, I see a lot of lawyers are kind of misrepresenting this or making it sound like it's an easier or bigger thing than it is. It's still helpful, but essentially, if you're in the United States and you add a status in some way, you don't have official status, and you stay here for more than 6 months, or let's say more than a year, once you leave the United States, you're subject to a 10-year ban on reentry. However, sometimes people are able to re-enter the United States lawfully in some form or fashion. For example, they might still get a tourist visa with a waiver and enter the United States. And while they're here, even though they have the 10-year ban, they're supposed to wait outside. They get special permission to come in. Historically, how it was sometimes interpreted by USCIS, they would only count the time you're physically outside the U.S. to accumulate towards that 10-year requirement, 10-year time outside the United States. But they finalized in the decision that this policy that says that you could run the 10-year ban clock while you're in the United States. So it's a very special and specific scenario that people could do in the United States to run the clock out. It's not just willy-nilly or something like that. Anyone could do it. So it's not too many people are going to be able to take advantage of this, but some people are. So it's going to be helpful in that sense. And Bella says, you recently commented a client received their EAD within a month. Are you seeing more cases like this with a faster normal turnaround on EAD? Yes and no. So what happened is we filed for a green card case, adjustment of status, and we filed for work permit with it. And the client got their work permit in like 4 weeks, which is tremendous. What we're seeing is wildly disconnected situation where we have a third of our work permits coming within 4 to 8 weeks, and 2/3 taking 7 or 8 months. And we have no rhyme or reason, no logic as to why it's happening that way. So it's unfortunately very difficult for our clients because they see this stuff, and I try to always mention in my comments that results aren't typical. But yeah, some cases get done really fast, and some take forever. And I have no way to say which one it is, but it does happen where it's faster. So because we have times where people contact us and say, "Hey, my friend's case was this long. How come my case is taking this long?" And it's just the way the immigration department is. Sometimes they're faster, slower, and it depends on which officer gets it and a million other factors we have no control over. And that's why when people are asking about timelines, a lot of these questions, I don't have an answer because sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower, and that's just how the bureaucracy is. And I've been doing this for 10 plus years. It's always been like that. It's a very inconsistent situation. But thank you for your question, Belle. All right, we'll ask a few more questions and we'll wrap it up. Cyril asks, your case status is unavailable at this time. We're working to get you, blah, blah. What's the meaning? They're just having some computer issue where they can't bring up your case status on their computer system. Michelle says, can an overstayed ESTA be adjusted to spouse or green card after a person gets married is illegal? If the person is married to a U.S. citizen, yes, but not to a green card holder. Mahid asks, can a company sponsor a visa to immigrate people who are already in the United States? They can if the person has maintained status or within 180 days of their status expiring under a special rule. But let's say you're a student visa holder while you're going to school, you find a company that wants to sponsor, they could do it. But let's say you've been out of status for 10 years in the United States, you entered on a tourist visa, you just hung out after the visa expired, the status expired, you know, it's going to be difficult for the employer to file for you unless some sort of exception exists. Rafael asks, is it worth paying for pre-em processing for the I-130 EB3 other workers with the visa bulletin so late? Not really, but it's a case-by-case determination. Maybe it's needed in your case because you want to get an answer sooner rather than later, but not per se. It's a lot of money to spend $2,500 for a decision that may or may not help. But sometimes you want to know faster whether the I-140 is good or not, and just to know it. So it really depends on what's going on. Roger Schwartz, what happens when we file the I-751 and it's under processing, but things change over a period of time? What changes over a period of time? What would change, Rajesh? And you know what? Just email me that question instead. Okay, Natalia asks, can a sibling petition with their siblings, you know, on vacation status and change status? No, when you do a U.S. citizen sibling case, it takes 15 plus years for that sibling to be able to get a case. They won't be able to maintain their status in the United States in the meantime on a tourist visa, so that's not going to work. And we'll take 2 more questions. Cupcake asks, when can I file for citizenship? I have my green card for 2 years and married for 3. So if your spouse is a U.S. citizen, you can file as soon as 90 days before 3 years of having a green card. If they're not a citizen and been living with them, then you have to wait the full 5 years, and that's it. And last question, Identity Unknown asks, if you apply for asylum and while processing get married to a U.S. citizen, can you switch applications? Yeah, I just did one. I did one for this case 2 years ago. Green card was approved, and today we went for the removal of conditions and the interview, and the case was approved within 2 hours after the interview. This exact scenario. Some lawyers don't understand this. Some lawyers will say you have to stop your asylum case. Your USCIS sometimes mistakenly says this. You have to withdraw your asylum case before you can approve the green card case. All that's incorrect. You can challenge that, but have a lawyer on this. Because it gets confusing and people kind of mess up on this stuff. Marlon King says, hey, long time. Good to see you, Marlon. And, you know, my wonderful assistant, Katrina, has named Cupcake_Cupcake as the last winner. We'll give away 4 this time, but we'll just do that as our free consultation winner. So _Cupcake with the K. Wherever you're watching this, take a screenshot so I see it's you and email it to me at info@jqqlaw.com so I could you know, send you information about having a free 15-minute video consultation. Thank you all for watching the live show, especially _Cupcake. That's it for today. We'll be back again next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time to do this fast format, answer your questions, getting down to business, no fluff, no nonsense. This is the channel, the immigration channel, where you get questions, you know, answered not specifically to your case, but education stuff, not just fluff and just, you know, filling out time and just, you know, that kind of stuff. I like to get down to business and give you information that's good and useful. Like I said, that's you all next week. Have a good one. God bless you.